Now, how are you equating that to Kamala Harris apparently like runs the country and it's her administration and all of the responsibilities that have fallen under the Joe Biden administration are somehow just all responsible for Kamala Harris? Like, how is that connected? What is the powers of the vice president? Can you tell me that?
Right. So first off, I can tell you that Joe Biden almost did nothing. His entire administration, his brain's
okay.
That's you asked the question. Would you like me to answer? So the idea, and we're basically being told now that we all but know that even though Joe Biden's not cognitively all there, it's okay because actually the show's ran by people behind the scenes anyways. So to that extent, there's no reason that we shouldn't look at the second in command and say that they're responsible as an integral part of that administration, particularly
when
they're
bias. That's bias.
You can say that's bias. That's fine. You asked me the question, and I'm going to answer. Right. Particularly then when we see that Harris herself is trying to connect herself to the Biden administration and has done so for 4 years, saying that, and Joe Biden has done the same, saying that she was integral and she was involved with all these policies, everything from economics to the border to foreign policy, as you're saying now. You're trying to differentiate and saying, no, we should ignore all of that because we've been lied to. And you know this, the American people don't buy the argument.
No, I disagree with that.
Let me finish.
I'm not in your world.
The American people, you could say you're not in my world, but the polling is quite clear on this. The American people, when it comes to the issues that they think are the most important, such as the economy and the border, think that the Trump administration was better than the Harris-Biden administration. And so that's despite the fact that we've been gaslit for how secure the border was for 4 years and how great
you trust polls. You trust polls?
No, I don't think that they're entirely true, but I trust them directionally. And I think that it's the proofs also not just in the poll, but how you see the reaction. The fact that even you are trying to run from Harris being connected to the Biden administration shows that you and the Democrats
I'm literally not, though.
It shows that you and the Democrats know that if it's a referendum on how is the economy and the border under Trump versus how is the economy and the border under Harris-Biden, that Trump wins that. The Democrats know that. You know that. All of us know that.
Absolutely not, because when given the position or given the opportunity to support a border aid, Donald Trump literally called Republican senators and House to tell them not to vote for the bill as it was passing through. He did that from the outskirts for political gains. He has no interest in the U.S. southern border. So Kamala Harris and Joe Biden had a plan. When that does get sent back through the House and the Senate, Kamala Harris already said that she would be willing to sign it. Both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris with the Republican-led House with a bill that was led by a Republican with Senator James Langford. And Donald Trump said, nope, the country can handle it. All that fentanyl that's coming in, all those deaths in Americans and the Haitians and the dogs and the cats in Ohio and all that bullshit can handle it. And because I need to be the supreme commander of the United States of America, I need to be the one that issues these orders. So that just tells me that they don't really care at all. They're just going to use it for political talking points when ready and available. But I told you 2 instances that Kamala Harris.
I'll respond to that.
I'm not. Hold it.
You're welcome to have me as a guest on your show, and you can talk as much as you want. But I will respond to the point you make there. Very effective at regurgitating the NPC talking points that you've been given by the Democrats to repeat over and over. So here's the narrative that you're pushing. In 2020, we were told by Biden and Harris the border is secure. In 2021, we were told by Harris Biden the border is secure. In 2022, we were told by Harris Biden the border is secure. In 2023, we were told by Harris Biden the border is secure. Now it's an election year, and so they have to pretend to care because their internal polling shows, whoops, even people that are traditionally Democrat think there's a huge problem at the border. So now they have to pretend to care. So they're like, well, what about this border bill? The border bill is a disaster. First off, the Republicans that are connected, it's not really about Republican versus Democrat. It's about establishment versus people that are seen as outside the establishment. That's fine. You could say that's cope. The Republicans clearly didn't care about the border before Donald Trump, as is evidenced by the fact that many Republican strategists told Trump in 2016 that such a focus on the border was a losing issue. The truth is they like the fact that they're, please, it's not that Trump won in 2016. You remember, it wasn't a losing issue. And most Americans, even in the debate last night, most Americans think that they would support even things like mass deportations, let alone a stronger border wall or border security. So it is a winning issue to talk about border security. And so what happened is Republicans don't really want to talk about it. They pushed forth a bill that was terrible. This bill would have let in like 5,000 illegals a day. It would have allowed exceptions from the very Biden administration, such as Mayorkas, that had showed a proclivity to allow these people in whatsoever. It funded the very NGOs that are facilitating these people coming in. It would have enshrined this in law, even if Trump won. So he would have had difficulty rescinding this law and having a congressional law passed to have an actual stronger border. It didn't provide any funding for a border wall that would come immediately. All of these things were terrible about this bill. And the idea that Trump should have supported this or Republicans should have supported this that would have allowed the Democrats to have these loopholes and enshrine this in law. So for the next 2 years, they could say, just like the moderators tried to spin, well, it's legal. It's legal that these people are coming in. Republicans voted for it. It's legal. So now you just have to accept these hundreds of thousands that come in a year because you voted for it, which is the exact argument they would have made and said that they couldn't rescind it. I'm supposed to believe that somehow the Democrats that told us for 4 years that the border was secure and did nothing until it was an election year, and then wanted a bill that funded the very NGOs that allowed this illegal immigration and facilitate it, that would have enshrined this in the law. Oh, but they really care about the border. Bullshit. Why didn't they talk about the border? Why did they say that it was secure in 2021, 2022, 2023? When they had control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, why didn't they solve the border crisis? If it was so important to them, why instead were they rescinding Trump's executive orders, which led to the worst border crisis in modern history, and telling us all the while, actually, the border's secure? Why did they do that if they really care about the border?
Yeah. Because the United States is not a dictatorship, and things need to be done through the Congress.
They controlled Congress and the Senate.
Who controlled the Congress and the
Democrats.
Senate? We control the House.
Didn't you in 2020? Am I wrong about this?
Who was president?
Biden, 2021, right? That election, the 2020 election.
The House went to, and Biden continued the border wall. Biden continued funding the border wall. He continued border wall in Arizona and Texas. Have you been to the border wall?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Okay, yeah, I have.
Wow.
I've seen it on my YouTube channel.
So he continued. How many miles of the border wall was built by Biden-Harris?
I don't have that number on me right now.
You've been there. Give me a ballpark figure.
I don't have the exact. You're looking it up, so you tell me.
I'm not looking it up. I'm asking you. You're the one who's speaking as an expert. You've been there. You said that Biden built the border wall. I'm asking you, how much?
I'm saying Biden continued Trump's border wall. He continued it in October of 2021 into November, and he actually still continued.
So what occurred was, as you know, as was again referenced in the debate last night, which Vance could have done a slightly better job on this, we were told by Democrats that border walls were ineffective and racist. And so when Trump wanted to spend some money on creating a border wall to have a secure border, they had one of the longest government shutdowns in history to stop him from doing it. Now,
if border walls worked, if border walls truly worked, why was immigration moving up, or why were border crossings going up before Donald Trump even left office? Why, when he showed his famous graph in his speech, and also that MAGA Republicans showed in the Congress showing immigration numbers rising, why was it going up while Donald Trump was president? Like, why didn't the borders? Why did Mexico not pay for the border? Why is the border wall not finished under Trump when he had control of it?
All right, bunch of interesting questions. One, the reason that the border wall wasn't finished under Trump was he tried to have a bill that Democrats had the largest government shutdown because they said that walls were racist, walls that they're now advocating for. So you or Kamala Harris haven't answered for why the wall under Donald Trump was racist, but now that they want a wall that it's not racist. You haven't answered why, if it was ineffective when Donald Trump wanted it, why now Kamala Harris is supporting it. Second, he's not a dictator, so he wasn't able to just say, screw it, I'm going to build a wall on my own. Because the Democrats had a shutdown, he was unable to get accomplished everything he wanted. Third, it is true that there was times that because his numbers of illegal immigration and border crossings were so low at one point, it did naturally go up at some points. Ben, there were many reasons why that could have occurred, but it wasn't because walls don't work. It was because there was illegal immigration coming that was facilitated by organizations that our establishment and the Democrats want, like NGOs.
That's nonsense.
You don't think NGOs are facilitating the illegal crime? No. That's not true. No. The evidence shows that's quite literally what's going on. Nonetheless, the idea that we have to say because there are ebbs and flows under a 4-year period, and sometimes it went up, like in 2019. By the way, it went down in 2020 then, correct?
No, it was on the rise while Donald Trump was
the argument is when he left in 2020, that was the highest point that had been under the Biden Trump administration.
Is that what I said?
You said it was going up when he went out.
It was already starting to, like, if you read a graph, you know how graphs work?
I do.
Okay, so it was already starting to trend upward while Donald Trump was still president. Like, it was already increasing to the levels where it's getting to. Like, it was already on an upward trajectory while Donald Trump was still in office. And he points to the point on the graph after he was out of office as if it's, or he pointed to a point on the graph while he was still in office and tried to sell it as if this is happening while he was out of office and president, and it's just not the case. But the problem at the border is not going to be fixed with a wall. It's not going to be fixed with security. It's not going to be fixed with the National Guard or whatever, even though the National Guard are down there. And whenever it's raining, by the way, they don't care. Like, there's no crossings when it's raining.
Okay, so just to illustrate the point that you're trying to make. So here's the border crossings under Donald Trump. 2016, 331,000. 2017 drops to 311,000. 2018 drops to 304,000. 2019 goes up to 396,000. 2020, at the end of the year, we had around 350,000, which was precipitously lower than it was in 2019. So the argument is that it went like this, was trending down, then went up in 2019, and as I said, then went back down in 2020. 2020. Those numbers were exacerbated hugely under Biden. The argument is that you're trying, and we know that there was, because they couldn't get the policies that he wanted passed through Congress, because Democrats led the largest shutdown, because they wanted these open borders, as they all tantamountably admitted. They did. On that debate stage in 2020, all of them said it shouldn't be a criminal offense for people to come. They all said that they wanted to give benefits to these people. All of them said it's a humanitarian crisis. None of them said of any measures that they would put to stop these people that are coming as long as they claimed asylum. So it was tantamount to open borders. They signaled to the rest of the world that if you come here, we will give you all of these benefits, we'll allow you in. And predictably, that's exactly what happened. On top of that, there were 90-something executive orders that Joe Biden bragged about, which Kamala Harris was there and bragged about as well, almost immediately rescinding, which predictably led to a border crisis, which we could see occurring in real time. They told us over and over there wasn't a border crisis, that the border was secure. They told us that in 2021. They told us that in 2022. They told us that in 2023. And then when they saw that it was an election year issue, they said, oh, now we have to try to keep our phony baloney jobs and pretend that we care about this issue. That's exactly what occurred. It is undeniable.
I think it's a projection. I think it's an absolute projection. Yeah,
what were they doing in 2022 when they had control of the House and the Senate?
What was the Republicans doing when they had bipartisan support and they could have fixed the issue?
They didn't. I already explained to you how the bill was actually bad.
That bill was such an authoritarian bad. You're the projection of the bill that you're talking about with the Kamala Harris supporter that James Langford led is a good bill. The one you're talking about with Donald Trump and the House Republicans, HR2 is dog shit. It's an abs. I am disputing it right now. If you let me speak,
okay.
I will dispute it.
It was good. That's what you said so far. It was good.
I'm actively disputing what you just said right now. Okay.
It was good.
Anyways, HR2 is not a good bill. It was an authoritarian bill that was not going to actually address the systemic problems at the U.S. southern border with asylum claims because they are backlogging the system. Okay, this would have added judges. This would have added more border agents. This would have added more resources. Would have added more security measures at the U.S. southern border to identify any threats that were crossing the southern border into the United States. And Donald Trump and the Republicans said nope. With all these measures and a bipartisan support that Republicans still could have claimed. They could have claimed a victory, a strategic victory under a Democrat president. Everything you're claiming about Democrats back in when Trump was president. You have Biden as the president, and he's a Democrat, and he would have signed a Republican-led legislature for the U.S. southern border, and Donald Trump decided, nope, because I need to win an election, and this is the only issue that I have. But you're not actually going to address any of the concerns. You just want to have fear and carnage, send a HIMARS system down there, send an M1 Abrams systems down there. You know what? I was in a debate with another MAGA, and he said we need to have a battalion of Marines down there. If you decided I'm going to ask a question. How many battalions of Marines would it take to secure the U.S. southern border? What do you think?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Nope.
That's a better answer than the last one.
Okay,
I got.
Cool. So now notice what he did here was he completely ignored everything I said. He said
no, I didn't.
It was good. Yeah, this is what he did. So this is
I directly talked about HR2, which was the Republican bill.
So what he did was he talked about HR2 and just said it was authoritarianism. HR2 was a bill that actually had teeth that would have not allowed thousands of people in a day that came here. That's why he doesn't like.
Wrong.
So it would have.
Wrong.
It would have.
Wrong.
It would have. Go ahead.
You think that bill would have stopped people from crossing the border?
I think it didn't enshrine that legally we had to accept in 5,000 something a day before it went into effect. Correct?
That's not. It's still a humanitarian issue. People are crossing for asylum. Like it's still going to be a problem.
And now it comes.
Like sorry, I'm not going to take the position. Sorry, Rob. Sorry, Rob. I'm not going to take the position of. I'm not going to take the position of the military firing away at immigrants crossing the border. I'm just not going to take this.
No one said the military should fire.
Okay, then going back to the debate. Going back to the debate from last night. Going back to the debate from last night. So when JD Vance,
if I come as a guest on your show, you can filibuster to your heart's content.
I'm going to empower the U.S. southern border. What does that mean?
We'll just okay.
When JD Vance says I'm going to empower the agents of the U.S.
Last chance, I'll leave you sort of allow me to address this, or you can keep trying to talk over me. It's your choice. Right now, notice what he did. Now he gives the game away here. Actually, it's a humanitarian crisis. We do have to leave these people in. You see, and that's exactly what this bill was that they were pushing forward.
That's not what I said.
That is what you said.
No, it's not.
I'm just going to talk. You can continue to say this.
I know you're good at it. You're very good at doing it.
I know you're not very good, ironically, but people can judge for themselves what you said. So
well, it's your show, of course, because you're just going to talk over me. And you're just going to claim it's your show.
I mean, that's what you're doing right now. You're trying to talk over me. So, nonetheless, what else was?
You can do it
when it comes to H2, when we talk about the bill H2 or the HR2 bill, you can see when it actually had more teeth. He's like, but I don't like that. I don't like the teeth. It's a humanitarian crisis. We have to leave certain people in. That's what the bill was doing that was pushed. It had all of these loopholes. Notice he didn't address any of them. He didn't address the fact that it let in 5,000 something people a day. He didn't address the fact that it had loopholes that people like my Orcus that clearly wasn't enforcing the border. As the Border Patrol Union had said, it gave that they blamed specifically Biden, right, and say that he's been an abysmal failure and basically allowed these failures to occur. He doesn't address any of that. He doesn't address the funding to the NGOs. He doesn't address the fact that this would have enshrined it in law, which meant if Republicans took over, they would have difficulty rescinding it. He doesn't address any of that. Instead, he just goes back to talking the same old talking points. He says it would have sent a bunch of money for judges and things like that. Well, the problem's not money. The problem is that these Border Patrol agents, of course, they're going to say, sure, we'll take more money, and maybe they could use more money. Please.
Right.
But it's also the fact that they have an administration currently that's
Is this a debate? Are you just talking?
I'm going to talk to my heart's content on my show. I gave you a large chunk of time to talk there. I don't know. Is it a debate? You called it and disagreed with me, right? I'm disagreeing with your position right now. So it's taking a format of sort of a debate because you're issuing a position that I'm rebutting, right? That's what I'm doing. So you could say, are we calling this a debate? I would say asking that question seems to suggest that you're trying to derail the point I'm making because already I've said it twice and you've not addressed it. Now, talking specifically then about this bill, he didn't address any of those things that I said that this bill did because all he's capable of doing is repeating the talking points that he's heard. But it was bipartisan, Langford said, right, and it was still a terrible bill. It would have been enshrined in law.
Those are your opinions. Those are your opinions.
You could see from the way that he talks that actually he, just like the Democrats, want to allow these people. We have to be humanitarian. We have to allow them in, right? And so that's sort of the rhetoric that they're going with anyways. Notice that he didn't address once. He hasn't even attempted to address.
Am I like your showpiece? Or like, what are you doing? I'm right here. Like, I'm talking. Like, I can talk and present my own opinions. I'm not a showpiece. Fine. You can when you get a chance to talk. I'm not like your trophy.
You can. That's fine. Certainly, I don't need you as a trophy. You could have the chance to address.
But that's how you present me.
You could have the chance, and I'll be sure to interrupt you as commonly as you're interrupting me.
I'm ready for it.
Notice how he hasn't addressed whatsoever. Would you prefer if I say this? Notice how you haven't addressed whatsoever the fact that the Biden administration told us the border was secure in 2021, 2022, 2023, that they controlled the House and the Senate through 2021 and 2022, and they didn't do anything to secure the border. In fact, they seemed pretty pleased in telling us that everything was going swimmingly, that these people were coming in, flooding in. Notice he hasn't addressed that. What he wants you to believe is that they were diligently working on securing the border and thought it was a problem when we saw these record numbers coming in 2021, 2022, 2023. They were diligently working on it, even though they were telling us and virtue signaling to all of us, actually, the border's secure. Actually, things are going quite well. And then it just so happened in 2024, they finally came to you know what? Here's this bill that we support. He hasn't answered the fact that we saw that the numbers.
Because I fundamentally disagree with you. I fundamentally disagree with you. I fundamentally disagree with you on this. Like, you have your position and I have a different position, and you're trying to sell your MAGA audience your take, but I'm here trying to.
Okay, we'll just mute you here for a second, so then we'll give you a chance to speak when I'm done. Notice how he hasn't addressed that. Now, what you can't lie about is the data. You can't. We see that one of the first things that Biden did when he came in office was bragged about the 90-something executive orders of Trump's that he rescinded, and we see that immediately led to a gratuitous spike in the amount of illegals that were coming. It's because they wanted them to come. They bragged about it. They thought it was a PR victory to say, oh, we're treating them more humanely. We got rid of these. And predictably, the data doesn't lie. He has no answers for any of that. He's going to the old Democratic talking point, oh, trust us, we always cared about the border, but mean old Trump didn't like this border bill, so all of the blame falls on him. Okay, you can respond now.
So you're authoritarian banhammer for muting me there.
Are you banned?
So number one, we talk about whatever, muted. So you talk about Democrat.
Is this a debate? Is this a debate?
This is fun. So
is it a debate? Is it a debate?
Yeah, it's a debate. So anyways, so U.S.
Am I your trophy? Am I your trophy? Is that what this is? I'm your trophy?
I wasn't going to actually address
Am I your trophy? Am I your trophy? Is that what it is? Am I your trophy? Am I your trophy? And like that's all this is. Is this a debate? Is this a debate? Go ahead. I'll leave you talk now. It's annoying.
It was a very, very good bill, and it was worked on by both sides, which is very important to do in a bipartisan Congress. And you try to pass bills for the American people that is bipartisan. And when given the opportunity to pass something that both parties supported and people from both sides supported, the Republican Party and Donald Trump said, nope, that's good. We don't need any of that. It is a humanitarian issue, regardless of whatever the cope you're talking about. I know you really just want to load up a 249 and just a belt fed and just fire away at the immigrants down there, but that's just not going to solve the issue, and it's just not going to solve the border crisis. the number one source of immigrants coming into the United States is going to be from when they fly in and stay beyond their allowed visa. That is actually the number one immigration stay inside of the United States. It's not even the U.S. southern border crossings. I fundamentally disagree that the U.S. southern border crossings are a very key, strong issue with the United States. I feel like that is a very focused MAGA Republican talking point. And even when addressing the issues of the asylum and the backlogged asylum that does need to be fixed, I agree with you. I agree that there is issues that need to be handled down there. But I guess when it comes to actually taking care of the problem and legislating and bringing it to the Congress to do so, you would rather fall onto talking points and narratives and then push it back into propaganda and not even handle the problem when given, or not even handle the issue when presented. And I think Tim Walz did a good job of that in the debate yesterday, talking about demonizing the problem instead of solving it. And that is a very common MAGA Republican tactic when dealing with any type of issue or anything in the news space these days. You're just going to demonize it, complain about it, and then not actually want to figure it out or solve it. You're just going to make it up, just like JD Vance says, just going to make up some stories, and hopefully that's what people will go with. So, I mean, you've done a lot of rambling and a lot of Republican talking points, and I was just going to share that my background isn't Democrat. Like, I am not a Democrat. I come from MAGA. I voted for Trump in 2016. I volunteered for John McCain's campaign in 2008. I mail-in voted for Mitt Romney when I was deployed overseas in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. So I've been very much a Republican like my whole life up until 2020 when I decided to vote Green Party, because I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go for both of these parties. Like, I'm going to vote for someone else now. So I went Green Party. But then now, because of how cooked the right wing is and how cooked MAGA is and how cooked libertarians are, simping for Vladimir Putin and wanting to be Putin fluffers, there's just no chance for me to go for any other political party other than the Democratic Party, who at least want to keep the fundamental or the foundations of the United States together by upholding the Constitution, which MAGA and the Republicans have absolutely zero interest in doing.
So you notice that there's a lot of sophistry here. When we're talking about the specifics of the bill that he wanted to talk about, notice how he hasn't addressed any of the specifics again. He just says these buzzwords. It was bipartisan. Oh, by the way, I'm not
bipartisan
a Democrat.
Is a buzzword?
I'm not
bipartisan is a buzzword?
I'll finish my point. It was bipartisan. So don't all the specific objections you made to it. No, it was bipartisan. It's all good. When it comes to, I'm not really a Democrat. I just have no choice because of MAGA. None of this addresses the point that he wanted to make specifically about the border. Notice he, again, completely failed to address for about the fourth time the fact that the Biden-Harris administration rescinded all of these executive orders.
I did address it. You're lying.
You're lying. You did not address it.
You
Did
were
not
lying.
address it.
You were lying to your audience right now. I did address it.
How'd you address it? Go ahead. You have 10 seconds to tell me how you addressed it.
Okay, I fundamentally disagree with your entire positioning on the border. I do not view it as an issue within the United States as an invasion. I do not view it as an issue in the way that you.
That's not addressing. So he
that is directly addressing it.
That is not addressing. That's not addressing him saying I don't think it's a big problem.
That is directly addressing.
That is not addressing it. Him saying I don't think it's a problem isn't the same as me saying the Biden team told us that there wasn't a crisis at the border. They said it was good. Now they're saying it is a crisis at the border. So why didn't they talk about it in 2021, 2022, 2023 when we saw these record numbers? What were the policies that they were advocating to solve it when they had both the House and the Senate? What did they do? They did nothing. They waited until it was an election.
They never had the House and the Senate. You're making that up. Again,
that's your claim?
So the Democrats had the House and the Senate? We've had all three? All three?
1 second. Yeah, you could be right. Let me check.
I know I'm right. It's been a Republican House the entire time. I know I'm right. They're the ones fighting back at it this entire time.
The Democratic Party had 220 members in the House. The Republicans had 212. And I believe in the Senate, the Democrats, it was tied, if I'm not mistaken, and Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote as the VP. Correct?
Are you referring to...
The independents, it was 50-50 with the independents voting Democratic, so it was 50-50, and Kamala Harris became the tie-breaking vote. So you're incorrect. The Democrats, with the tie-breaking vote in the 50-50, controlled the Senate, and they had more members of the House from 2020 to 2022, and they had the presidency. Will you admit you were incorrect?
From 2020 to 20, so 2 full years.
Yes, correct. They had the House,
Oh,
the Senate.
even while Trump was president.
No, the election that occurred in 2020 that would have resulted.
So that would be 2021. So they took over in 2021.
The election occurred in 2020 for 2 years. The first 2 years of the Biden presidency. Look, you made the declarative claim. You said that I was wrong. I was willing to look it up and say that I could be wrong.
They did not start governing until 2021. Please.
Okay, they governed for 2 full years. They governed for 2 full years. The first 2 full years of the Biden-Harris administration, they had a tie in the Senate with Harris had the tiebreaker, and they controlled the House. Correct or not?
Wrong. No.
Okay,
no.
What was wrong about it?
Trump was in office in 2020. All of 2020.
Let's say
the whole year, the entire
year. From 2021 to 2023.
And you said 4 years too.
No, I didn't. I said for 2 years they had the House, the Senate.
I heard 4.
Well, you were mistaken. You weren't listening because you were too busy talking over me. So again, I've directed this 3 times to you and said they controlled the House. They controlled all 3 branches of. Or I'm sorry, they controlled the executive and the legislature. Why didn't they do anything on the border? Your answer is.
They didn't do anything at the border. Like,
right? Why didn't they pass the legislation?
So HR2, why didn't they pass HR2? Is what you're asking?
I didn't say specifically HR2. Instead, they told us there wasn't a border crisis. Right? That's what they told us. They said it wasn't a border crisis. Instead, what you saw was Joe Biden rescinding executive orders.
Wrong. No.
What did they do? Tell us what they did.
Absolutely. The right wing was framing the border as some type of an invasion through right wing media.
Okay, you disagree with the framing. So what did they do?
They drafted a bill led through James Langford to address the concerns and issues directly by right-wingers.
That's 2024. Republicans. That's in 2024. What did they do in 2021, 2022?
Last time I checked, they're presidents for 4 years, and they have an office for 4 straight years. So whatever they do within the time frame is what they can accomplish. So you're going to say because it wasn't done in the first.
Right. When they had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, so that was their chance to pass forth bills that Biden would have been able to sign. What did they do?
So they have 4 years to govern. They were trying to get the bill. What did they do for those
first 2 years? They were trying to get that bill, the Langford bill, through in 2021?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So what did they do for those? If they thought that there was a problem at the border, what did they do?
Who thought it was a problem at the border?
That's what the Biden
problem at the border.
Oh, so you're admitting that the Harris-Biden administration didn't think there was a problem at the border.
Not in the same sense as MAGA Republicans.
And that's exactly so. That's
why I think.
So that's exactly
what I told you. That's what I told you. That's what I told your audience. I fundamentally disagree with this entire principle.
So that's exactly. So I'll go back. So now, after all that and the deflection, saying actually they didn't control the House, that was incorrect. But I was willing to give. Look, all of us make mistakes, so I'm not holding you too much. But I was pretty sure that I was correct about that. So you can see this chart here when he talks about how things were going up. Things were going up to Trump. You see October 2020, December 2020. Now you see February 2021. When Biden comes in, you see that it starts to go up. It's unsurprising when they talk to a lot of these people that are illegally crossing. They said Biden will allow us here. The Democrats want us here. Then you see the crisis numbers that we saw all through the Biden-Harris administration. It's no surprise because they didn't treat it like a crisis, as this caller is saying. They rescinded executive orders. They wanted these people to come in. They didn't think it was a crisis. They only are now talking about it in 2024 because they realize it's an election issue because people were concerned about it. So he doesn't have any answer. He didn't answer. He only says, well, the reason that Biden-Harris didn't do anything when they had the House and the Senate and they had the executive branch was they didn't buy the framing that it was a crisis, right? Which is another way of saying they did nothing. And then he just flounders and says, but
because we're not living in your MAGA world. And
that's not like, now again, I gave you plenty of time to talk after I was done messing with you for the interruptions you gave. You'll have a chance to speak again after this, right? So again, he concedes that they didn't do anything. They didn't think it was a crisis. And you could see it just oozes from him. Oh, it needs to be humanitarian and I don't buy your framing and it wasn't this big deal and blah, 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 blah. Again, if I have to mute you so I could get through my point because you can't continue yourself, I could do that, no problem. Anyways, you can see that it oozes from him that actually he was okay with these people coming in. That's the truth. And so was Biden, and so was Harris. They're only now pretending to care because they know that it's bad for them in the election. He also just says it was bipartisan, doesn't address any of the specific things I said that were problematic with this bill at all. Doesn't even remotely try to. It isn't opinions. I'm telling you things that were in the bill. And he's not. Again, last chance. If you interrupt me again, I'll just mute you.
Just do it. Just mute me. Okay. Mute me right now. Yeah. Mute me right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're muted.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe I'll bring him back. Maybe I won't. If you're asking to be muted, I'm more than happy to gratify your request there. He doesn't have any response, so he just keeps going with these buzzwords. It's bipartisan. And Trump doesn't care. Again, what I'm telling you is you could see that he doesn't care about the border. Biden-Harris didn't care about the border. They don't care. They wanted a bill that would encourage allowing these illegals to keep coming, 5,000 something a day. That's written in the bill. They wanted one that had loopholes that Mayorkas would be able to say he could give special exemptions. That's written in the bill. It can only be enforced, I think, up to like 180 days or something like that. I don't remember the exact specifics. That's in the bill. It funded these NGOs. That's in the bill. It enshrined it into law for multiple years. That's in the bill. He doesn't address any of it. He just says, but it was bipartisan, so it's all good. And the American people understand that when it comes to the border, that Trump was markedly better. And all they have is, but we tried to put this bill out at the last minute, but they can't explain the fact why they didn't think it was a crisis for 3 years. Why they gaslit the American people that everything was good. And it was only till it was an election year when they spoke up. This goes more back to, we got a little sidetracked from what the conversation was supposed to be, that he believes that Walz won the debate against J.D. Vance. And when I outlined the reason that I think Vance clearly won, he immediately resorts to, well, you know, for things that Walz didn't even say in the debate, I think Walz won. So when I say, look, he connected, J.D. Vance did a great job of connecting Harris to the failed policies of the Biden administration, and Walz never even pushed back once, he's like, but everybody knows that's not true. It doesn't matter. That's stupid. Of course she's just VP. And you can see how he's floundering. He's using, his bias of things that weren't even said in the debate to inject his own argumentation to try to save Tim Walz. It is evident to anyone to watch that both perceptually, as this caller admits, that perceptually J.D. Vance looked good. He makes excuses immediately. He says, well, he's an experienced debater. Right, so that's why he looks better. That's why he was better on the substance, and that's why he was better at achieving the goals that he outlined. Only someone that's biased to the point where they are predisposed to hating MAGA and wanting to vote for Harris and Walz thought that Walz won that debate. He hasn't given any reason why he thought Walz won that debate. He's given deflections. He's giving talking points. And he's clearly ill-equipped to argue the specifics of these issues. Instead, he's just going, but it was bipartisan. And actually, Democrats didn't have the House and the Senate. And actually, okay, they did, but that was only 2 years. And what did you expect them to do? They're there for 4 years, et cetera, et cetera. So he's out of his depth on this. And I appreciate the fact that he wants to get a little clout and come on here and think that he could talk to someone who's acknowledged several times that I'm a good debater and I'm a good talker. And I appreciate that. We'll give him a chance to respond here. But it's clear that he's out of his depth, much like Tim Walz. It's a very much Vance-Walz-esque conversation that we're having here, which is ironic. He doesn't have much on details, has a lot on empty platitudes and ignoring things, and trying to sort of say, speak out of both sides of his mouth. Actually, they're trying to secure the border and they're doing a good job. But it wasn't a crisis, and these numbers were good. There was no problem that these people were coming in, and I refuse to accept your MAGA framework. Last thing I'll say is he makes some comment about how I want Marines shooting at people. Never said that. Desperation. Next thing he'll say that I wrote Project 2025, just like the Harris-Walz administration or campaign. So he's learned from people that know how to have false smears and things like that.